This is Nepal flag, sun and moon, telling that Nepal will last as long as there is sun and moon. Namaste, I am Bhaju Ram. I am from Nepal, 10,000 miles away. I am very happy to be here to share you my mental map of spiritual and social, physical, whatever goes on. And one of the most important things I want to share with you is why I became Seventh-day Adventist. Because today I think I am the happiest Seventh-day Adventist in Nepal. And my definition of Adventist is, Adventist has nothing to do with the people, including myself, but with Jesus Christ, because he was the first Adventist. How I became? I came from a home that is, I can say, dysfunctional home, violent home, and it was not necessary that we have to be poor, but I came from a very poor home, and we had to, we were displaced in Kathmandu. My mother died when I was 5 years old, and then my father brought stepmother, and then there was a lot of conflict, problem in my home. And my father was a violent person, and he would beat everyone, including my mother. And so I did not, I came from such a family that I began to hate my life. And then I had to start cooking when I was 5 years old, and I couldn't do proper cooking, so I was punished for that. So as I grew up in various ways, I grew up, and when I was going to, when I was in high school, in Nepal, there was very much anti-American feeling going on because of Chinese influence. And somehow I was also influenced by that. But I wanted to know the meaning of my existing, why I am here. When I look at my family, there was no meaning to it. When I look at country, there was no meaning to it. So I began to turn my thought toward existence of God, to realize, to materialize, to know my existence. And I thought I must know if there is a God. And the first thing, I come from a very strong Hindu family too. I grew up among those sadhus who smoke hashish, and I had to prepare hashish for the sadhus. My father smoked hashish. He drank and he smoked. So hashish taking was very, I don't know how I was kept away from smoking hashish, even though I lived among those hashish. And then what happened then, because of Christianity at that time was very much, it was banned, and people were taking Christianity as outcast. It is an anti-national. And since 1760, about, the Christianity was banned till 1990. And so Christianity is looked as an American religion, foreign religion. And there are many reasons for it. Anyway, so I didn't want to do anything with Christianity. However, when I went to school, public school, when I was grade 5, there was a teacher who was a Christian. And that teacher was very gentle, very kind. And other teachers were after him. And somehow he had to leave the school because he was believing religion that was anti-national. For your information, that man is today a very strong Adventist. Now talking about 1960s, those days. Anyway, but that was only first impression was what Christian was. But however, I was small. I didn't go after. Then as time went on, in this high school, I began to find, question, is there a God? There is no God. Why there are so many religions? And why so many different gods and goddesses? Now in Hindu religion, we have 330 million gods, and they are goddesses. So that means 660 million gods and goddesses. When I was a 5-year-old, my mother died. I had to give offering to all the 330 million gods and goddesses, all in stones in the jungle, and I had to give offering to all these gods and goddesses. But as I grew up, when I saw these gods and goddesses, just a stone, and I didn't realize that, I started to ask question, why I need to worship them. And actually, my first English teacher was Muslim, so I was exposed to Islam, to a certain extent, but I was never impressed by it, even though I respect it very much. Then I began to explore. First, I want to study. I want to find out the truth about Hinduism. So I began to read books and listen. I read. There are many temples in Nepal. I read about how the temples came. All these myths, lots of myths, wonderful myths. It's like I don't care about Harry Potter because we had much more than that. So very, very powerful myths. And then one book that is called Swasthani, which is almost the book that it tells how the world began and to how world ends. It's really big. And the great controversy in that book is between gods and demons, and talk about the Trinity gods: creator, sustainer, and destroyer. But they are not like biblical Trinity, but they are three gods with three personality, and they are three identity. They are. But among them is one most powerful god was Shiva. This book, holy book, every Hindu Nepali read in Nepal. But this time I wanted to read to find out the truth. But anyway, as I read story, the one story struck me, that there was one woman who was very faithful to husband, and because of her faithfulness, the head god got very jealous. So he came. He wanted to kill this man. So he brought him up to his heaven, and there was a big war. He was trying to fight. As long as this woman was faithful, then he won. And so it went on for eons of time, according to myth. And then Vishnu, second god, said, "Oh, this is not. They're just fighting. It's not good." So he took the form of this man, whose wife was faithful, And in the Hindu myth, he has four hands. It is powerful God. And so he became personified that man whose name was Jalandhar. And then went to his her house, and there she thought her husband came. So that night she slept with him. So in other words, he took away her virtue. So next day her husband's body was on the floor. He was killed because she lost her virtue. And this mortal woman then saw these two husbands, two men, one on the floor, one is there. And then she asked, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am God, Vishnu, with his full form." And she said, "You being God, instead of protecting me, you deceived me. I'm going to curse you," she said. "May you become tree, may you become a stone, may you become a plant, may you become grass." So she cursed him, and she went to Sati, which means she died, she was burnt alive with her husband. Even today, people worship people tree, black stone, basil plant, and special grass, all holy. My question when I read that was, what is morality? Even gods do like that. So what is morality? So I got disappointed. And then I began to, for a while, I turned against religion. I became, wrote my name as a communist. And I started not worshipping, not believing gods and goddesses. Then I had a Hindu friend who told me, "Oh, since you're interested about religion, why don't you go to Christian bookshop?" So he took me to Christian bookshop, and I got the thing of "For God so loved the world." That big statement was there, and I never heard that when I was Hindu. That it is not we loving God, but God loving us. That's a different picture. So I sat in that bookshop. I didn't have money to buy books, so I began to read books. I did a correspondence course, read the Bible, and then I started to also attend underground church. Now that was 1964-65, that time. And Christianity was outlawed in Nepal. And Christians were persecuted, put in prison, and ostracized. And so there were only few churches. That one church was for foreigners, missionaries, and then other group were kind of hush underground. So I began to attend this. And the youth meeting, I went to attend youth meetings. For several years I attended, and all the time there was Jesus, we need Jesus Christ because we are sinners. And then after Christ died on the cross, the law was nailed on the cross. And so if there is no law, why do we need Christ? And that was my also questions. So I didn't think I needed Christ, because if anybody needs Christ, it's our gods and goddesses. So I didn't feel that I needed Christ. And then what happened, I went to my village, which is, I lived in Kathmandu, and 30 kilometers from my village I went for my 10th grade examination. By the way, I failed twice, 2 times, because I was taking care of my half brother and sisters, so I couldn't study. That's another story. And during that time, I heard about Panepa Hospital, Adventist Hospital. And that time, so I thought maybe I'll go to church there. Of course, that time Uncle Richard and Rosinia, and they were there, and then Calvin and Malcolm and Connie were there. They were small, and I was small too, no doubt about that. And Mrs. Clark had Branch Sabbath school in her living room, because they couldn't do it publicly, so it had to be very close, kind of not open. So I began to attend that Branch Sabbath school on Saturday, on Sabbath. And one day on the church, I saw during a communion service, there was doctors washing patients' feet. Now in Nepal, we are class society, not classless society. We have many class, many castes, which means when I was small, I was even told the American people are outcast, and I'm not supposed to drink water from them, that much. And all this thing, caste system. But seeing doctor washing patients' feet, other Nepalese feet, it really touched me. It is something very, very new to me. And I thought there must be something special. Now, I was very impressed about Adventist, people there. And first person I met, Mary Pakinadam, who became Pakinadam. She's in Maryland now. She was a nurse. She was very kind to me. And Mrs. Clark was kind to me and all. So the kindness touched my heart. But however, I was not converted yet. I had not learned yet why I really need Christ. So on Sunday, I was attending Buddhist monastery, learning of Buddhism. So the monk who taught me a lot of things of Buddhism, and got a lot of essence of Buddhism. And then I began to compare between Christ and Buddha, and I like Buddha. So I thought I want to become Buddhist. So I asked the Buddhist priest, monk, I want to please, give me the whatever Buddhist to be commitment to become Buddhist. So there's rosary. And I know rosary, 108 times you take, God's name, the Buddha's name. Then the Buddhist monk told me, he said, he was very happy. He said, I'm happy you want to become Buddhist, and you stay with me, and you leave your home. I had nothing to leave, actually. I was working in somebody's home as a houseboy. I had nothing to leave. You come and stay with me, I'll build a cottage for you, and then I'll teach you more. Then, can you imagine, there's a Buddhist monk, and there's a Buddha's statue and me. Right in the monastery, a thought shot in my brain, why I am here for? Am I here just think of my salvation? And all the people, the Buddhist monks sit in the, do own work, but stay in monastery, depend on other people to come and feed. And I thought, why? To become parasite? thinking about my own salvation, then why did he create me? That was my question. And then I said, if I think about myself and sitting and just meditating and doing a study of Buddhism and thinking about my salvation, and that I must be most selfish person. So I told monk, I'll think about it. So I didn't accept Buddhism. And that monastery has no monk still, because that monk wanted, I would have been there, and that I could have become second monk. He wanted to make me a second monk. We were still friends. When we went back after college, we were still friends, we talked, and he died some years ago. But there's no monk in that monastery. So I was still thinking about, now Christianity. I was attending underground church in Kathmandu, and Sabbath whenever I could in Nepal, and then still need of Christ didn't make a sense to me. Then one day I was on the street, I saw a leaflet on the floor, on the street, and I picked up the leaflet. The thing is, I really like to read. I love to read. My father never bought me books, but I would go to shop and read. I go library where I could. I love to read. And so whatever I find, I'll read. So I picked up that booklet, the leaflet, and read. That was 10 Commandments. And then it was my eye-opening. I said, why I'm a sinner? Why I need Christ? Because that we are doing exactly opposite of what 10 Commandments. Even gods and goddesses are doing the same thing. And people morality, ethic, based on those gods and goddesses. And no wonder we have problem. And so I thought, then I began to decide I really need, because I'm worshiping the idols. And I was taking God's name. We are allowed to steal in a certain season in Nepal, certain festival day. I was doing very thing that I should not do. That's why I need Christ. Sorry. So I need Christ. And so then I began to put more thought into Jesus. I wanted to. So I attending one day underground, the youth meeting. We had to close all windows and meet there. And every month there was youth meeting in Kathmandu for the young people. Every month there was, and I had to attend. And it was night, late in the evening. I hear preaching. I enjoy singing, thing. And then one night, 1969, October 29, and the preacher was from India, and the Nepali, who was a Nepali interpreter. After preaching, the preacher said, quoted text from Revelation chapter 3:20, I'll stand at the door and knock. So the preacher asked, anyone want to accept Christ, raise your hand. Now I heard that many times. And one thing I made, even before I got into the becoming a Christian, I made covenant with God. And I told God, I don't know whether I will believe you or not. Two things. One thing, I know I need, I am poor, I need help. But please do not give me any help from any Christians until I am converted. That was my covenant with God. So I didn't want. I was selling newspaper, I was selling this and that, working in somebody's home, I didn't want any Christian to help me because I didn't want people to label me as a rice Christian, which means you become Christian, you got to help. And number two, I didn't want mission, a church, to employ me. I didn't want, I want to stay away from the church employment. Two things I asked God. And so, anyway, that time, when the preacher called, I began to think, should I accept Christ or not? I began to feel the need of Christ because the Christ call that if you give your life to me, I will take care of you. I will be your Savior. Then in my mind I began to think, what is there? I explored Hinduism, I saw Buddhism, I saw atheism, and exposed to the Islam. And then now if my life is going to be meaningful by accepting Christ, I'll accept Christ. I raise my hand. When I said that, my brain split into two. One voice says, no, don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. And the other voice says, raise your hand. And then immediately I realized the devil was speaking and Holy Spirit was speaking. And now devil was telling me, giving all kind of problem. Oh, your family will ostracize you, you'll double anti-national, you might be in jail, all kind of troubles. That devil was tempting me, trying to threaten me, scare me. But then other spirit was telling me, you raise your hand, accept Christ. Open your heart. I want to come into you. I will take care of your life. Now, the thing is, neither of the voice could force me to do either way. And I had to decide. The decision was mine. Neither Jesus could force me, nor Satan could force me. And I knew the voice. So I began to think my past life. Past life was no promising. If no past life is no promising, neither a future life. And so, if Jesus is going to take care of my life, I will raise my hand. And that decision I made, I started slowly raising my hand. But the voice strongly, no, 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 yes, yes, yes. So I said, okay, no matter what will be, I will accept. So raise my hand. And the voice that said no vanished away. And I was in tears. And I knew that Jesus has won my heart, my life. And that was my conversion experience. And after I was converted, I didn't tell my parent, my father and stepmother. I kept it to myself. And so, after my conversion, and during that time, I was selling books, gospel books. I was not afraid, even though it was illegal. Going to shop and villages, taking gospel message, gospel books. And I needed some money, basically. But I did not want to be employed at the same time. It was just, I was selling newspaper also in town. And there was organization called Operation Mobilization, which is a worldwide organization where they sell in literature, Christian literature. And that there was an American gentleman who was heading that organization. and he I had to get books from him, and every day I would give money back. And after my conversion, I wanted to take baptism. So I came to know that Malcolm Clark was taking baptism. Pastor Christopher from Northern Union president, he was coming to baptize. And there was no reason why I shouldn't be baptized. So I want to, because I liked Adventist message. I like, they teach 10 Commandments, and with other Protestants don't teach. And it made very good sense to me. So the time came for baptism. Just before that, a week before that, I went to this American gentleman. I told him, I accepted Christ. I want to take baptism. There is a baptism going to take place in a Shimir hospital, church personnel, and Adventist church. I want to take kinetic baptism. Now, those days it was very risky to take baptism too. But when I said that, the gentleman told, no, don't take baptism under Adventists. Adventists are not Christians. That was shocking to me, because I came out from religion, no religion. Now the Christians are telling who's Christian, who's not Christian. And then I got confused. So I didn't take baptism. And then, after my conversion, few months after conversion, Grandma Osgood, Mrs. Clark's mother, she was watching me. I didn't know. Then one day she told me, Bhaju Ram, you need help. I will not care whether you're Hindu or Christian. I see a worthy person. I want to help you. Now, the time when she said, I was studying in a college, by the way, and I was getting stipend from the government. So I was okay. But more help was better. But I didn't stay home. I got out of my home. I hated my home so much, because so much violence in the home, so much fighting. So I would do anything to get out. So I was staying, somewhere in a public place, public ghat. Ghat means riverside. So anyway, so when she said that, and then, I accepted, because afterwards conversion. And so, to make story short, she sent me to Spicer College. I studied Adventist, baptism class for 1 year, and there I took baptism. And God kept the promise. And second promise, mission, God has been still, I'm not employed by mission, and He kept my covenant. Still He's keeping. And then when I finished Spicer College, I came to Nepal, and I started working in American school as a teacher assistant, later as a one of the librarian. So in this, how I became Adventist is one of the most permanent reason was because of love and friendship I received from Adventist family, and also the teaching that made me more sense than just general Christians. Okay.
Very good. Did you want to say anything about being the first Nepali baptized outside of Nepal, or something like this?
No, I am not the first Nepali baptized. But I can claim I'm the first person to accept Adventist message in Nepal, and first national, because there were many Nepalis in India, was they were what you call the exile, no, not exile, they work in India and they become an Indian citizen, so there were a lot of those kind of people, exile, Nepali, whatever. And but national. In Nepal, our Dr. Sturgis, who came to Nepal 1959, at that time he wanted to work with other Christians in Kathmandu, and there was a missionary group who were opening hospitals and education center. Government did not allow to preach, but they allowed them to open the social work, do social work. So Dr. Sturgis came from Portland to want to open the hospital, do medical work, but other Christians did not want to work with Adventists. So they told him to go to far away. In that time there was no buses, no transportation. So people had to walk from Kathmandu to Banepa, the present hospital. And I had to walk many times. It was all day walking. There was no road. So Dr. Sturgis went there, and there he opened hospital. 1959 and 1960, hospital were inaugurated by the first elected Prime Minister of Nepal. And then till 1969 or 70, there was no Adventist Nepali. And there was, from the Indian origin, there was a student, there was a pastor, and but he had Indian citizenship. So other than that, there's no national Nepali. So in that context, after, let's say, 10, 11 years of Adventist presence, I became the first person to accept Adventist message. I studied in Spicy College. I want to be a teacher. Always I wanted to be a teacher. And I graduated in 1978. And when I came back to Nepal, that time, of course, it was still underground Christian movement. But Christianity was slowly spreading. And one day I was in a shop, and there was a man who came from Calcutta, Billy Graham's associate, supposed to come to Nepal to preach to evangelist meeting. Now it is still illegal, but still, they were daring Christians who were ready to take a risk. So in that shop, this man told me that you come, we want to have a meeting in a 5-star hotel. We want to have a Billy Graham's associate meeting in Nepal. So I went. And we had all the a nice dinner, and we formed a committee, and I was made associate secretary of a committee to start to have a Bill Graham's associate, Robert Cornwell from India, was to come and preach. So it was a happy note. So we came home, later on, when we met in house committees, and there was, all of us were there. There was a Campus Crusade person, other Assembly of God, and other church members, and even Catholic representative. Even though I am not representative, I was not representative of Adventist Church. I'm just ordinary member. And that meeting one day. On the first meeting, the one man who was supposed to come, prominent Christian in Nepal, he didn't come. So we speculated why he didn't come. So maybe we thought next time he would come. So next time he didn't come. The word was sent by him, I will not attend any committee in which there is Adventist. Now this well-respected person, I still respect him, he's nice to me, but the strong prejudice against Adventists. But when I came to realize that I cannot work with other Christians, which I thought I wanted to work with other Christians, and because I want to glorify Christ, and that was a common ground. But other Christians did not want to work with Adventists. And so I began to think that I need to do something about it. I brought out a book. This title is Seventh-day Adventist Faith, a Step Ahead in Faith in Christ. And this book has some pictures. The main, in the beginning of introduction of this book, I mentioned we didn't want to tell that we are only way to heaven like many other Christians teach. I wrote that we are not claiming that, but anyone who is united with Christ is entitled to salvation. That is my mention that. And this book has 28 fundamental doctrine in nutshell. That is, I took down from General Conference website. And to let the people know what we believe. And this one has also 10 Commandments that has brought me to Christ. And I want people to know the 10 Commandments. It has also how to accept Christ. It has also what is our official stand on Ellen G. White as Adventist Church. And it has a picture of President of India many years ago receiving the 10 Commandments placard from Teach International by Mary Chung. And when he got 10 Commandments, when he read, he said, if people were to keep this 10 Commandments, there will be no war. Now this scientist president is still living, but he's no longer president, of course, he's ex-president. And it has also Daniel 2, and then in the back side is explanation, history of the world in one page. And it has 3 songs that one was Second Coming of Christ that I used to sing during underground years, and 2 songs I translated, Lift Up the Trumpet and Don't Forget the Sabbath. And of course back picture has Second Coming of Christ. Now this book I usually carry everywhere I go, and I give to receptive Christians. Not all Christians in Nepal accept it. They don't want to take it. But many church leaders, they take and they appreciate. And then I give to Hindus, I give to anybody, because this has nothing against anyone. And so this is my 5th edition, and I'm going to revise it and going to make a new thing again, and then I'm going to publish more. So almost I have been like a one-man campaign. I want to put Adventist church in limelight of Nepal. So that was 79, 88 when I got away from the other Christian churches. Then as time went on, we didn't have Adventist organized church. So around 82, 84, we organized a church. And I was the first elder, first Adventist elder, Nepal elder in that church. So we organized, and Dr. Prakash and Sherry, they were there. So anyway, we formed, we declare Nepal going to have Seventh-day Adventist church. That then we started to have a organization, NGO, or we form a organization to have church work. And during that time, in 1984-85, we invited Adra to come to Nepal. Actually, I proposed. So I'm the first Adra founding member of Adra Nepal too. Right now, Adra is doing good job. They are doing community service, and due to the rules and regulation, they cannot help the church, but they are doing their own way, and we appreciate. And then as time went on, in 1990, when there was revolution to throw the 30 years one-party system, and Christianity was disbanded. No longer religious freedom was there. So I started to actually the first church, first congregation, me and some friends, we started in Kathmandu. And it was in the French Cultural Center where my friend was working. And then later on we were thrown out of that. And then I wrote a letter to President of Division in India, and he sent a man who was also before, but then my wife, myself, and we started a official church mission, in Kathmandu. As the time went on, that was 1990, 91, and slowly church work began to spread in other villages, Nepal. We are working in American school as one of the librarian, and my son studied there. When they came to America, to both of them, when they came to America, and my wife, in the meantime, my wife got cancer. And then due to different reasons, my going to church has stopped, and I concentrated in home. And when my wife got cancer, and it was devastating news to us. And the doctor told that she would die in 6 months. When my first son just started a university year, college year, and first son was studying, the second son also just started. And during that time, when the doctor was giving her chemotherapy, because she was in very, very much burning pain. But I had wrote letters to many friends in America, and even through River and Herald, to pray for my wife, because I wasn't prepared for her death. So after 6 months of chemotherapy, the doctor exclaimed. Now this doctor, he was president of Cancer Society, expert, and one expert cancer specialist doctor. He said, wow, this is the first time my chemotherapy worked. So he couldn't believe that it kept her life on. But anyway, to make story short, she lived for over 3 years because of prayer, mainly because of prayer and thing. And 2004, my elder son, dependent, was getting married, and then my wife and I came to America, to Cincinnati, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Anyway, and there my wife, my son arranged to be seen by oncologist in Cleveland. Now that time America had 4 cancer hospitals known. One of them was in Cleveland, and still the Cleveland Clinic. So after 2 hours of checking with my wife, that we brought all the documents from Nepal, and X-rays and all the thing, and American doctor, the cancer oncologist said, he said, medically, I cannot say. We have no proof. We cannot say. Why? No, he was telling to my wife, medically we cannot say why you were living. You should have been dead 3 years ago. Now you are living. And and she said, because I want to live. I love to live. And then the doctor told us to go back to Nepal and continue treatment. And after 5 or 6 months, she was in the hospital again for quite some time, and the doctor told me that your wife will not die because of cancer, because of bed sore. So she did die because of bed sore. After she died, then I was devastated. My sons were here, and I was there alone. And for several weeks, I couldn't sleep. And I tried to read the Bible in the morning. Because the morning was the time I had to talk with my wife, plan for the day, 3 or 4 o'clock. I couldn't sleep. In the morning, I had to get up. That when my wife was leaving, I had to talk with her, plan for the day. And when there was my bed was empty, and of course, I wasn't in mind to getting second marriage. Because my wife, before she died, she told me, that she would arrange a girl for me, because she knows that I need someone to take care. I don't want to take care of me, And so I told, no, I have one hand you, one hand Bible. If something happened, I'll have both hand Bible. So that was my determination. So I didn't want to get married, but still I couldn't sleep. So I prayed about it, Lord, what to do. I couldn't sleep. And so the distinct voice, the same voice when I was converted, told me, translate Sabbath school lesson. And I began to say, oh Lord, this is not my job. And it is church pastor's job, church worker's job, not mine, and I'm not working in mission. So I started to argue with God. Say, well, God was calm, and then again next day I prayed, and the voice kept coming, translate Sabbath school lesson. Well, then I said, Lord, I don't have Sabbath school lesson, and it will be provided. So somebody from America sent a Sabbath school lesson. We didn't have, we don't get Sabbath school lesson in Nepal. Only few leaders may get English, but general Nepali Adventists didn't get it. So now, here I got, okay, I started to translate little bit main outline and give to our church, and they liked it. And then they wanted to go to give to other church members. And then now I had to produce ahead Sabbath school lesson. So I wrote a journal conference and then a division. So I got permission to have access to manuscript, the journal conference. Now in the whole division, there are only 2 people who have access to manuscript, me and director of Sabbath school lesson in Southern Asia division. So I get ahead of time Sabbath school lesson to translate. Now the problem was I want to do quickly. I have to do early. What to do, and I need to learn computer, so I can do straight computer. So I pray, Lord, I don't know how to, Nepali typing, I don't know, can't do it. It is so slow. I say, you learn it. So I began to, well, what to do, I don't have money to employ other people, so I started learning Nepali typing. And then my son from America suggested I should do Unicode font, which I could put in internet. So I started learning Nepali typing. And today I type the Sabbath school lesson. This is a current Sabbath school lesson. Now this is very thick, by the way. Why it is thick? What I did was I put all the Bible text in it. So that makes it thick. And so people could have, they can take anywhere and read. And also, with the permission from Elder Goldstein, I have no dates in the beginning of the lesson, as opposed to, universal Sabbath school lesson. But I do have a page separate. So which chapter, which date, so people can read, know which, and after the end of 13 Sabbath, they can tear the page out, and this can become perpetual Bible, study book. And there will be no question that, people say, oh, this is only Sabbath school lesson, I don't want. So this will give impression to people that they can refer any time and study. And I give this to Hindus, I give to other people also. Now, I think you might be interested also to know how I print. After my wife passed away, the president of division came to my house, and then he told me specifically, Bhaju Ram, mission has no money. Till now, I have produced over 3 dozen Sabbath school lessons, and my son puts in internet, and Journal Conference Department of Sabbath school, they also put in internet. This is the first Indic language in the to be Sabbath school lesson put in the Journal Conference Department. I send that, and I still, God and I is the reason. When I finish Sabbath school lesson, like I don't have the fund. I don't have no fund. No, I don't have a set fund, no institution, nobody saying that, okay, this is continue, you print it. But it's like hand to mouth. Every time I finish Sabbath school lesson, I have to ask God. And somewhere, somehow, He provides. And this has been my very interesting roller coaster with, Now, currently I finished Jeremiah. I sent to Nepal. And I told that, okay, we'll get ready, we'll send to press. I said, well, I don't have the money, we need to print it. So that is because I totally depend on God's word, and He has not disappointed me so far. And not only that, as I said, I wanted people our Adventist people to believe Christ enrich in their belief through the knowledge. So I wanted to do, either supervise or translated several books that I want also continue till I die. And currently I'm working on Elder Haskell's Bible handbook, and besides other things. Something I did is, this is, I edited, my friend, President of Nepal section, translated Steps to Christ, and it's printed in mass and also being distributed everywhere. And then this is a Messiah that the other friend did, and I edited in Nepali language. And I did this. In '86, I came to America, and I found English version of Bible story. It was interesting. And after, it took me 25 years. I prayed that I wanted to make it in Nepali. I sent a letter to a publisher, Sweet Publishing, and they gave me permission to translate it. I got permission from Sweet Publishing, and we translated. A friend who was staying in my house, a student, right now he's a doctor now, he's in Bangladesh, he's finished studying, translated this children Bible story. 1,800 pictures. It's a life, it is a true to life pictures. And when I wanted to publish, I didn't have money. It cost a lot of money, about $10,000. But money, somehow, somewhere, I got the money. Somebody from Australia donated, somebody from from Denmark donated to print 1,300 copies. Now we have only few copies left, finished. Now what I'm doing also right now, we are preparing to one page, one picture, so that we can show to people children in the class. That project is finished. Now waiting for Lord to provide money. And we dubbed final event. The Dr. Sandeep Shah, who translated Picture Bible, dubbed Elder Butler's speaking. So this is very, very popular. Even it is being distributed someplace in America. And I give this to Doug Batchelor also, copy. And this is a Sabbath school lesson on sanctuary. And it has companion also sanctuary book written by Pastor Glenn Hill. And I did another book. Many people think if you become Christian, everything will be okay. But this has 51 stories of different Christians, like Martin Luther and Paul and all, short stories, and many, many Christian heroes. And I want to bring out more books. And an interesting book is Religion in Nepal. This author has put Who Adventist, a summary, a short note on Adventist church in Nepal. And this is the first public book ever to mention on Adventists in Nepal. And also I have 2 stories that he has published. And I sent this book to an university, and Dwight Nielsen sent send me a letter of thank you. So I am working on, we are working more books to bring out, and also I had Great Hope. And I translated Great Hope in Nepali language, and I put the picture of Sarah here, this picture in Great Hope. I published 500 copies, and it need to be published more. I also did, I didn't bring it here, Amazing Fact Bible Study Series. So somehow I feel I'm impregnated with God's Word to give to the people, that I want people to believe in Christ, not because what we say, but because I want them to experience personally, like a Samaritan woman story, and the people said to her, we believe in Christ not because of what you said, but because we have heard ourselves. That experience I want to have. So some of the things I do, this Nepal section was organized about 3 years ago, and we have a section president, Pastor Umesh Kumar Pokhrel. Under his leadership, our church is really growing very well. And he and I, I'm a layman and he as a worker, and we help each other in such a way that he has made me, recommended me to member of Division Executive Committee member, and then I became first Nepali layperson to represent as a delegate from Nepal. So this general conference I came to as a delegate. And we have now, the interesting thing is, in Nepal I'm alone. My 2 sons are here. My home is here. I have a house in Nepal. But I'm experiencing is my home is in the heart of every Adventist. And I go far and wide in the churches, in the mountains. I walk 8-9 hours. And the last my mountain trip, I hurt my knee permanently. So it hurts me, but still okay. And I go to all the mountain villages, churches, and preaching and teaching, encouraging. And I also have oil from Israel, the olive oil. I anoint people, and for healing ministry, which Lord has been using me. We were having evangelistic meeting in the southern part of Nepal. And then there was one man who came with back problem. So after the meeting, I took the oil and I said, anybody is sick, I will anoint. So I took the oil and anointed everybody. There was a whole crowd of people. And then one man just said, a Hindu man, not even Christian. He said, I am sick, I have a back problem. So please anoint me. So put oil. So I put oil and prayed. And next day when I saw him, how would he say, I feel better. And the Hindus, the Christians also, and this, I just got 2 bottles from Israel to take home from when I came here. It is just some motivation to point to the Christ, and it is Jesus who heals, not the oil, not me. And so the faith makes people well. In Bangalore, there was a boy who was scrolling. He was not walking. So last May, November when I went to Bangalore for division meeting. I went to see that boy and the mother, and then I anointed oil to him and prayed. This is invalid child, he couldn't speak and think. So he was not walking, and so I prayed. So went back in May, and the mother said, "Did you bring the oil?" That time I didn't take oil. I'm sorry, I didn't. And he said, after you prayed, after a couple of days, he started walking. He did walk when I saw him. And so we had a girl in our church, which I did not know her before, about almost 3 years ago. We had a friend visiting there in our church, the American friend by the name of Gavin Simpson. He was to preach. In the middle of during Sabbath school lesson, and she went to trance. She began to, go into fit, let's say, and she started to shaking, and people took her down to other room and started praying for her. She had superpower. 6, 7 of us were pressing her down, and she was taking her. She was lifting people up, and she was just shouting and crying and saying all kind of things. Now, it was psychologically, it may be some term, but in Nepal we called evil spirit came. So you were possessed by evil spirit, and she was saying all kind of things. I gave her a Bible. She beat the Bible, and she also beat my knee, and all the people were really pushing her down, and she had a superpower. I don't know where she got the power. And this American gentleman who was 6 feet tall, he just couldn't stand. He just went outside, started praying. He said, "Never seen this scene before." He's a world traveler. He go to Cuba and other countries for preaching, and he was really impressed. And then, so we prayed for 2 hours, and then she came to herself, and she didn't know anything what happened. So we came to, later on, we found out she come from very poor home. Her father had same problem, and witch doctor and all those things, nothing could cure, and he died. And she was learning how to become a witch by the force. She was forced. She was only 6 years old that time. And then she didn't want to learn. She left only half. And then she was cursed, saying that she would die within 2 years. So you going often into the fit in the school. She failed school twice because she couldn't study. Her mother would beat her, her brother would beat her. She was really abused. And then somehow she came into contact with our church member, and we prayed for her and started attending the church. Then one night I called the people to pray for her. All night, pray vigilant. So even her mother came, her brother came, who are Hindu, and then she came, and she was there. So all the church, all night we stayed, we prayed for her, and often anointed with oil. And this American gentleman, he took interest in her, and he said he wanted to help. Right now, she's in about 3 years ago. She's in grade 8, very sweet. She's very controlled, and she's she took our church section president baptized her. She became Adventist, and she's studying, doing very well, and she did not die yet. So this story, it is not a folk tale, not fiction. It's a true story, and I monitor her and her studies and her well-being all. And there's another story. There was one lady in a village that she had problem in her finger first, and then she didn't care that one. The later on it became more, and she went to all the shamans. 40-50 chicken were sacrificed, and then she went to, and nothing could help. They drank, they smoked. These were neo-Buddhist, and then she and her husband. So she went. Then she went to hospitals, and then slowly, her finger became her whole hand became paralyzed. And there was, cry, and there was tears in home. Now she thought she was going to die, and doctor said she had to cut the hand. And so that was a very bad situation. And somebody told her to go to church. Now that village, no church, just a small house church. So she went there, and when she started going, and first night she went, there were only 3 or 4 people, and they prayed for her. That night she slept. But her husband told her, "You can go to church. I will not come." Her daughters told her, "We will not come to church. Mom, you go to church." And a small son also. So she said, "Okay, you don't come, that's fine. I will go." But after going to church, she began to feel very peaceful and slept for first time. And then husband said, "What is this? Something in the church?" So he came to church, and he started to come attend the church. And then his daughter started to come. Whole family came to church, and they stopped drinking and smoking. And within a few months, whole hand became well. She got healed, and the whole family became Adventist. And because of her, about 13, 14 other people in the village became Adventists. And one of the daughter, we have sent her to Spicer College to study, to be a teacher. And now the church is run by 2 other girls, her daughter and a cousin. And so whenever I go to that village, I feel like going home, because these people really love Jesus. And so, like this story, when I up to the mountain going, and I also do right now what I'm doing. I also help to church how to conduct children's Sabbath school lesson, children's Sabbath school. So I give some short workshop, and then I start with the Sabbath school children. And then lately now what I'm doing, I've developed a program how to make Sabbath school study cell, our lessons. So in the churches, I go and I conduct a program, 1 or 2 hour program, and tell people and organize the groups to study Sabbath school lessons. So it has been going on for, let's say, a few months. The thing is this, most of our converts are like that. There are many, it's very interesting, the question, because we Adventists, unlike other church members, we don't go around house to house or evangelist meeting. But what's happening, our church is growing because the people who oppose us, many of them, they realize what Adventist message is. Many are becoming Adventists from other churches. Now we have the problem is this, many, in mass they want to come. and so we are having hard time in controlling. Most people who come to big Adventists, usually they fight against Adventist church, because let me tell you, in my house, I had a small Nepali house, okay, and there were 3 men staying in my house, and these 3 men were attending another church, okay, Protestant church. They were students, and then the 3 men were. I never talked to them about Jesus. I tell them, no preaching. But simply, one day one of the men asked me, are you a Christian? Obviously, I must have seen through my life. And I say yes. And then that led that person to, then I told him, I took him to our Adventist congregation, our church, and then all 3 of them began to attend Adventist church. Okay? Their pastor was against, and he would not even talk with me, and the pastor was really upset that, this is not my fault. I didn't tell them to become. And so they came, all the 3 men. One of them is section president now. Another is a treasurer. Another is a church pastor. So the beginning, they were taught Adventists were false. And there's another story is in the down south, there was a man, to answer your story, a church pastor. He had about 35 congregation in the congregation in the south, this man. And then one of our church worker visited him and then introduced Adventist message. And he began to learn, but his superior found out and told him not to have anything with Adventists, because Adventists are not Christian. So his superior, this church pastor's superior, opposed him. But then he began to find out, if Adventists are not Christian, then who are they? So he said, okay, so he want to find out more. Right? He want to find out more about Adventists. So he studied more about Adventists. And finally he got convinced who were false. And he became Adventist. He got baptized. And his congregation, he told, look, I'm going to join Adventist church. If you want to join, you're welcome. So it split into half. So half he had, half other. Right now, other people who are opposing him also joining Adventist church. And just a year or so ago, the church was built, land was bought, so was built, and the church is full with people. And they are telling me, please come teach, please come teach. And I went a few months ago. After 10 o'clock night, the congregation was learning about the Bible and things. So there are many people who oppose Adventists, but because we go there, we are friends. Adventists, we don't go. And because Ellen White said, be careful with a person, how you deal for whom Jesus died. So we go with that. with a friendship, people come to our church. And another story, I was in a church in way down south, which is very, very hot, and not Adventist. But this man was associated with a church outside with Indian, but for 3 years independent. But my pastor friend took me there. So I went there, what we can do, and very, very poor family. They had not much clothes. They stayed in a thatched roof house, and they were, it's like what you call the slaves, tilling somebody's land. But anyway, still children were not sent to school because they couldn't afford to buy notebook and thing, and they were half clothes and things like that. So it's a very poor family. But anyway, this man had at the church, he said running for 30 years, and there's a church, we need to renovate it. And then so I told what we can do. Maybe we can do children literacy program and things like that. So I met this man. And then after talking, and I was saying goodbye, there's something in my mind said, why don't you pray? Because I don't want to impose my value on other people. That is my stand. So then I thought, well, they are Christian. I'm sure they wouldn't mind me sharing some message. So I said, look, I'm going, but can I give some message? He said, yes, sure, please. So there were 35 people in daytime got together in the church. And I gave the message about Jesus' love. It was, I told a story of how, and this man, after telling the story, it was one of Uncle Arthur's story about mother's hand. And after telling the story, this man said, I have been in church, working in church for 30 years. I have never knew how much God lost. He said, realize what it means, God's love. And the interesting thing was, he went out, and he came inside, and he gave me a bag. It was suit piece. Perhaps his 1 year earning. Why he got impressed? I didn't ask anything. It's not mine. He gave one suit piece saying, we cannot feed you anything, please accept this gift. Now, these people had nothing. The suit have, fed those people for, quite a few family. So what is this? And then just before I left, one man gave me 100 rupees. And no shoes, poor man. He said, please accept this gift, 100 rupees. I still that's 100 rupees. So what's happening is, now the whole church is going to be Adventist. He said he has 500 church members who want to join Adventist church. His brother is already Adventist and running on the church there as a gospel worker in other part of the town. No, he was. So we are there to do what we can. So like this, not preaching, but practicing. We have Adventist World Radio, one of the most spread radio in Nepal. And we have church building project going on. We had a big earthquake that destroyed over 10,000 people, and none of Adventists died because they were all in the church when we had a big earthquake. And this brochure I have, which I prepared, your earthquake, what we did, and our relief program. So our church, we were involved in church building, church planting, and it was a peaceful, that progressive. We are involved in progressive church building time in Nepal. By the way, Christian churches are not legally recognized in Nepal. So though we are free right now, but we cannot own property. We cannot build a church. We can't build a school, institution, anything. Except if you do NGO, which means something happens, government can take over. So we are overground but still underground. But our church is growing very fast in Nepal. We have, like, when I accepted Christ, when I was converted, there were 250 people, all Nepal, Christians, not talking about Adventists, whole Nepal, according to statistics, there were 250. Now the Christian claim there are 2 million. And the government is planning to bring they are going to have constitution. We have no constitution. And they are debating on their element who wants to make Nepal as a Hindu country, which means they want to persecute Christians. And so debate is going on right now. In the midst of this, in April 25, and we were in the church in the Kathmandu area nearby, a main church. Around 12 o'clock, suddenly the building shook. And then everybody started to get up and shout. Our church one of the speakers was supposed to speak. He fell down. And the whole house shook. And I just got stunned. I sat on the bench. I said, what's going on? And only realized when people shouted earthquake. And the roof was, making rattle noise. So everybody, rushed down. And lastly, the friend said, why are you sitting? Let's go down. So only then I left. So that was 7.9 Richter scale earthquake. And that building got collapsed. The building got survived. But during that time, many buildings in Kathmandu Valley, many historical monuments, many temples got destroyed. And over 8,000 people in Kathmandu city, which is the capital of Nepal, got killed. And for 3 days, there was no communication. All the, what you call the mobile, cell phone, everything was off, telephone was off, so we didn't know what's going on. But 3 days, earth was still shaking. So we slept outside, we were refugee in our own country. And many people were out in the field and scared. After 3 days, we went to our village churches, where most earthquake epicenter, also damaged area. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 churches, 6, 7 churches in that area. And none of Adventists got hurt because they were in the church. Now it shudders. What happened if there were earthquake came in night time? There would have been many people died. But it came in the daytime. And except one boy who went to children's program, children's Sabbath school program, and came back home, and the house collapsed, and he broke his leg. Except for that one boy, no one got hurt. But all our church members' houses got collapsed. And some, but at least 2 churches got, destroyed. And then some church, one or two other got damaged. So we thought, in the central church, the first Sabbath, when there was earthquake, I thought next Sabbath nobody go to church. But when I went, and I had to preach that time, and we didn't meet up in the church because the 3rd floor we met. The room was packed. So even though earthquake still coming, and there was second earthquake in the May 12. It was on Tuesday. I was in the home, and the earth shook. It was over 7.5 Richter scale. And in just my house is some minor damage, and some more houses collapsed, but none of Adventists got hurt. And 3 days after earthquake, we went in relief with rice and whatever, rice and some oil and tent. We went to all the villages. And the government were not able to reach those places. So we went, and we made sure every Adventist has food, supplies. And also, we also gave the community member immediate. There was one Adventist church leader who said, we don't want just for ourselves, we want to give. So give the whole community. And later on, we also had Adra Korea come, and we had a medical camp there. So right now, before we left for general conference, we gave everyone tin roof to make a temporary houses. So they all had places to live. And then government is bringing building code. Then now they say we cannot build more than 2 or 3 stories maximum. And our next project is to help them build houses. That's why when I go back to Nepal, and I'll be involved with in that project. And we are very happy. General Conference immediately sent $5,000 to have relief program. And our division, South and South Division unions, they also help, a lot of friends help. And it says earthquake will continue for 1 more year, and every day it is still coming and becoming like a fashion. So these pictures that I made this brochure. I made this for General Conference to give out there, and I can leave some with you. I think I'll go a little bit back. After my wife passed away, and also I was working in the school, 3 years ago I got retired from the school. And then I got some Provident Fund money. Now, I have a house in Kathmandu, my place, but 30 kilometers from Kathmandu is a village called Dhulikhel, which is 5 kilometers from Banepa Hospital. And there is my father's property place, father's home. When I got baptized in Spice College, when I came back to Nepal, when I told my father I took baptism, my father got very angry. He kicked me. So I know I was out of house before. That time I got out of house. So they were, between my father and I, we didn't speak for a long time. So, but as time went on, we became again. We spoke each other, and who can hate me anyway, right? Anyway, so the time came they were to divide the land, and I told my dad, because I already accepted that I have to, after accepting Christ, I cannot claim any of my father's property. And he has legal right not to give me anything because I have become a Christian. And so I told my father, Dad, you distribute your land among my brothers and whatever. I don't want the land. And so my father was very happy. If you don't claim the land, because I have legal right to claim also, my father's inheritance. That's in Nepal. Not like here, you can't simply give anybody you want. So my father was very happy. So he distributed the land to my other brothers, my half brothers. Then he told me, you also is my son. You're my son too. I will give you land. I'll give you but little bigger land, but marsh land is useless land. It's a hillside, terrace, nothing but grass tree may grow, but it's very bad land, but I'll give you more. So I said, well, if you're give me even that bad land, because of your love, I'll take it. So he gave me land. And for many years, I didn't do anything with that land. I got 3 times more than my elder brother. More land, bigger land, and more valuable now because of the Chinese highway. And so it's a big piece of land in that village. It may cost like $300,000-$400,000 that land. So now what to do? I got retired. My sons are here, and then I have no wife. I'm alone. But Isaiah 54:5 says, Lord your God is a husband. You make it a husband. So since I made God as my husband, I thought, Lord, okay, you and I work together. Lord, you help me what I can do. So every day, every time I pray, and so this big land in the mountain area, it's very beautiful. You see the Himalaya, mountains, snow mountains from my property. So what I did, okay, I thought what to do. I want to do something. I don't want to sell it. It is, ancestor. And so I thought I want to do something for our church people. So I put all my provident fund money, about $20,000, to build 3-story. Started the construction of that. Not finished yet. I don't know. I need another that much money to finish completely. But at least there is a, I call it concrete tent. So 3-story there, and my plan is to have a advanced resource library, meeting hall, and guest rooms. Even though it's not finished, the people, our church is still using. We had 19 Korean student medical team stayed in that house, that building. And we had 19 students from Spicer College stayed in that house. We had, lastly, we had a wedding in that house. The pastor, Umesh, who is president, section president, he officiated a wedding. There were 100 people were there. And there was also baptism in my house. There was a water tank. So I want to make that place as a something, even if I die, a memorial of my father's love, and above all, I want to make the place where Adventist people can come and find rest. It's a retreat house. And that place, some people want to come, my village Adventists come and stay, they find a shelter there. The reason this, I go to all these people, village, churches, and then I stay with them, I live with them, right? And I eat with them. And I'm obligated to do something. So when they come to the village, okay, I open my house for them also. And among the one family I want to share is a very special story. This is very far away from Kathmandu, capital city, say about 50, 60 miles from Kathmandu. There is a village. In that village, there was this man who was village ruffian. He was drunkard. He was smoker. And he would chase any Christian presence there, and nobody would near him. So he was very rough guy, and everybody was afraid of him. They didn't like him. So that the village ruffian. Then one day his wife got sick. Now this is up in the mountain. His wife got sick, heart problem. And then he started doing all kind of worship, doing shaman worship and doing chicken and goats offering. Nothing happened. And then when she was taken to hospital in Kathmandu, and they told that he need 200,000 rupees, $2,000 to be treated. And there was no way that he could get it. So only thing now, he was waiting for wife to die, the heart problem. Couldn't do anything. Then somebody told her to go to church. So down the village is a river, where 4 hours walk, which I did also. 4 hours walk in village. She was carried to the church. It's another church. The church started by a friend of mine with other denomination. He became a Christian because I gave the Bible, but he went to other church. Anyway, so he started to. So she started to go to the church, and she felt easy about it. And first time she was carried. I think first, second time. Then later on, she started to walk. 4 hours down, 4 hours up, same day. And then she began to feel very, very easy about it. She felt better. And her husband said, "What is this? You're going to church? Are you feeling better?" She said, "Yes, I'm feeling better. You please come to church also." And then he said, "No, I'm smoking, I'm eating betel nut, and I'm too bad person. I don't want to go to church." She said, "I will feel better if you come." And she said, "You don't drink that time, you don't eat betel, don't smoke when you come to church. Afterward you do it." So he said, "All right." So because he loved his wife dearly, so he said, if it makes it better, I'll come. So he went to church. And then he heard no one should smoke and drink like that. And then he started to, attend the church there. And church people prayed, and somehow $2,000 was given to him, not through the Christians, but through some French people in downtown Kathmandu. They got contact and gave money for treatment. And then she got treated, and she felt better, and attending church, and she felt. And then slowly he gave up smoking and drinking. He became completely changed man. And then later on, these two, this family were member of and other community other church. There were about 30-35 people, member of Assembly of God Church, is a church, Protestant, this Pentecostal. And there was something happened that they broke relationship with that church down a riverside, and for 2 years they didn't have any fellowship. And this man, one day, he was riding the bus. He broke his back. He fell down from the bus, broke his back. He came to Banepa Hospital. And I was just visiting, and I happened to see him, and I prayed with him. I left Steps of Christ, and he asked fellowship from our church. So our church people began to go. And to make story short, they become Adventist. And they were pigs. Other Christians encourage pigs eating. It doesn't matter. So all were, these were people who were taking care of pigs. And they are raising the pigs. But now the pigs are out, goats are in that village. Now, one thing I asked them, they were worshipping it's a very poor thatched roof. During rainy season, rain comes, cold season, wind comes, and I asked this man, what can we do? I said, we need to build a church. So we prayed, and the man gave his land. He said, I'll give my land and build a church. So I wrote a letter, I write this sometimes. So I don't ask money. I just say what I'm doing to some friends. So one friend got very impressed and gave over $1,200-$1,300. So he himself, he got involved building the church. And he was carpenter. He's a carpenter. He's a masonry, and he's an ironsmith. All man. So because of that, the church that would cost $5,000, he built within $1,200. When earthquake came, all houses around collapsed. That church stood and became a shelter. Now, what I'm saying this is interesting thing is, I have full of stories that makes my life, think about the stories have very, very meaningful, that day-to-day life. And one of the story is I really like to tells that we do not believe in just borrowed promises, and we believe in what God is real. Now the story which I told, all these experiences are true to life. And there is another story which is, I enjoy telling stories. It's folk tales and things like that. There's even old people like, there's series of stories that I like is about King of India. It's around 16th century. There was a king called Akbar. It's a true story. He's a Muslim. And then he had a minister called Birbal. It's a true story, true Birbal. And he had other courtiers. So he had 12 ministers, let's say in present term, 12 courtiers, 12 ministers. And 2 were Hindus and 10 were Muslim. And so during those days, and there was no television, no entertainment, thing like except dancing and things like that. And sometimes the king and this Birbal, they would have a tete-a-tete with the trying to win over an argument or whatever they're talking, and who is smarter than who. So there are many stories. One interesting story is, there was one day a king announced that anybody who can stay all night in the water in Delhi area, from the Jamuna river, cold water in December. Anyone who can stay in the cold water all night, I will give, 5,000 rupees, which is like $50 that time. That 5,000 rupees, like $500, let us say. So he announced. So when he went around, and the announcer went around, anybody who wants to stay can stay in the river for all night will get $500, like that. Nobody would dare. Nobody could go. It's cold. It would die. So nobody want to be there. And finally, one old Brahmin, one poor man, and who had to give his daughter marriage and didn't have any dowry, anything to So he thought, well, maybe I will. It's better to die in river than being insulted. So he told the king, I will stay in the water. So the king said, go. So it's about 1 mile away from the palace and the king and the river. So he stayed all night there, cold river, and shivering and shaking, stayed there. Next morning, he survived through. He came to king asking, I stayed, please give me my reward, O king. And the king asked him, how did you manage to survive? And he said, I saw a little candle light in your palace, and I looked at that light, so I managed to survive. And so the king said, you cheat! You got a heat from that light and you stayed. I cannot give you money. Get out. So poor man, what can you do? What could he do? So he couldn't argue with the king. And you cannot get light from 1 mile in heat. It is impossible. But the king was just, he was just having excuse not to give the money. So what could do this man? If king is injustice, who will be justice? Who will do justice? So finally then he went to Birbal. He said, Birbal, at least maybe he can help me. So the Birbal, he told Birbal, I have been really unjustly treated, and I really needed money for my daughter's wedding, and that's why I was willing to die to be in the river. So please do justice to me. So then he said, then he talked to Birbal. Birbal said something to him, and he said, I will take care of it. So he left with assurance from the Birbal. And then next day, Birbal didn't go to the court. And so as the king sat in the court waiting for Birbal to come. It was 10 o'clock. He didn't come. I say and there was no watch, but still, there was time. And then he sent a police, a soldier. Why Birbal didn't come? So he went to the Birbal's place and came out and told the king, O king, live forever. Birbal is cooking porridge. I said, what? Birbal cooking porridge? And so maybe after the cook he will come. 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock he didn't come. He sent another soldier, same reply. And 3 o'clock, same reply. And then king got very curious. What is this? What kind of porridge he is making all day? And so he asked this soldier, he hasn't finished cooking? And he said, no, he hasn't finished. He's still cooking. How big the pot? This big pot. This big pot he couldn't know. So couldn't figure out. So the king thought he's going to see by himself what kind of porridge the Birbal was making. So he rode in a horse and went to Birbal's place. And he called the Birbal out, and Birbal said, I'm here. So Birbal was behind his house. So Akbar went, and what he saw, he was absolutely shocked. And he said, Birbal, I thought you are my most smartest, intelligent minister in my court. You proved to be a fool. And then, look what you are doing. You're cooking this porridge. What he had done was he had 3 bamboo poles, long poles, and on top was a porridge pot, and down was a fire. You're cooking, fire. And so the Akbar said, what is this? Do you think your fire will go up there and cook your porridge? What is this foolishness you are doing? And then Birbal said, sorry, king, if the light, 1 mile light from a candle this Brahmin, this poor man gets, why not my porridge will get cooked? And then Akbar got taken back. Oh, that's what you are doing that. Okay, call this man. So he got the man and gave the money back. So now what is this? The story for me is, the Birbal story, there are many other stories. We should not give people borrowed promises. And Lord Jesus is, in Ephesians chapter 2:6, it says, He has put us in the heavenly places. Many stories that where Akbar Birbal or other stories, I try to find a spiritual meaning. For example, Ugly Duckling is a story that tells us that people may treat us like ugly duckling now. When Jesus comes, we'll be treated who we are. And also Cinderella story, one day Prince will come, one day Jesus will come. And Akbar Birbal story has several stories that has, another one of them is, when I tell the story, and if I have to tell story to other people, even in a church, sometimes I bring these folk tales and strike them in their home. They understand, try to bring spiritual truth. Now, one day when I realized that I was treated not as a Christian, but another Christian people in Nepal, in a personal experience, then it struck me one story of Akbar Birbal's story. Now, Birbal, the 10 Muslim courtiers, they did not like Birbal. They were very much jealous of his intelligence. They were always thinking how to put down Birbal. So one day they decided that they are going to do trick on him. They would trick him. And they said, we are going to tell the king tomorrow. They got together, 10 people got together. And they said, we are going to hide egg in our underpant. We'll go to water pond, and then we'll bring egg out from there. We'll not tell the king. But we'll tell the king that this is a special day where we'll find egg in a water pond. And so we'll bring out, Birbal will not know, and he will be embarrassed. And we'll see what will happen to Birbal. And then, so all agreed. So next day, when court sat, and king was there, ministers were there, and then the king said, anything special today? And one minister, Muslim minister said, today is, according to our Quran, a special day, a day that a pond will produce eggs. And king, yes, sure, really? He says, yes. So all of 10 of people say yes, they will egg. So king said, oh, let's go and see the pond and find egg. So they all went to the pond, and then there, then the one minister took his clothes off, went down the pond, and came out with the egg. And oh, everybody clapped. Then another minister went and came out with the egg. They had hidden egg, So all 10 of them went to the pond and got 10 eggs there. And king was very happy. Wow, really you are really wonderful, they got eggs. Now turn Birbal's turn. And Birbal did not know. So then Birbal, while standing, you go down. You also get the egg. So poor Birbal took all the clothes off, put it on except underpants, and he went down the river, down the pond, down, and he searched all over the pond. There was no egg. Of course there was no egg. There wouldn't be egg anyway. So the Birbal thought, and the people came, oh Birbal, what are you doing here? Come up. Are you laying egg? You didn't find eggs? They were teasing up all the ministers. And Birbal he said, now I'm going to be embarrassed. There's some trick. So he took some time, he went swim around, and when he came out of the pond, he went 3 rounds of the pond, and he said, cock-a-doodle-doo. He made that cock noise. And everybody said, what is this? What happened? And then Birbal says, folding the hand to king, king, please forgive me. All these were chicken, I am the cock. All these were hens, I am a cock. So I think I could lay the egg. So they Birbal won. So now, whenever I go to Christian churches in Nepal, I feel like that, I feel ostracized by other Christians. Okay, all are Christians, I'm an Adventist. And that's why in my name, I write Bhaju Ram Sester DJC, which means, and I have a statement on top of Jesus' word, I'm the way, truth, and life. And then people ask me, are you a Christian? And I answer, that you to answer me, not me. I have not reached to stage calling myself as a Christian. A Christian is the one who reflects Christ. I met a Hindu God-man who was a member of royal family, royal counselor, and people worship him as a god, as a Swami. He wrote a book called Jesus Was a Hindu, and I read. And one day in one of the functions I met him, and I told him that what he spoke was nice, and I read his book, and I told him, you mentioned Christ was a Hindu. And I told him, different people look at Christ different ways. And he said, yes, I went to Rome, I went to here and there, I know about Christianity and things. But other Christians, I don't like Christians, they are pushing. So he had negative feeling about Christians. Then I said, yes, I myself don't like people being pushing. But I asked him, this Hindu God-man, what do you think of Christ? And he had a very hard time. He said, you asked me very, very difficult question. And so later on he said, sipping his tea, he said, Jesus Christ was Hindu. No, he was God. Now this God-man in Nepal, many of these godmen, they have high regard for Christ, and they are against Christians. Why? I explore, I will think about that. And all because Christians, people look at Christians with, they expect Christians to act as Christ did. So, keep that thought in my mind. When I made my card, visiting card, and I had Jesus said, "I'm way, truth, and life," and then my name. After my name, I write DJC. And people get the card. They say, "Are you a Christian?" And I knew the moment if I say I'm a Christian, people would compare me with other Christians. Other Christians are, human beings too. They make mistakes. But I want people to say I'm Christian not because of what I say, because of my life. So I said, I have not reached the stage of calling myself Christian, but I'm a devotee of Jesus Christ. And I say I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I believe in Jesus' second coming. And in fact, not only seventh day, I'm a 7 days Adventist because I'm 24 hours involved in the ministry, visiting, praying, translating, all those things. But I haven't reached the stage myself calling I am Christian yet. And that message, everybody seems to accept it. Namaste, मेरो नाम भजु राम श्रेष्ठ हो। म नेपालबाट आएको हुँ। तपाईहरू सबैलाई परमेश्वरले आशीष दिउन्। धन्यवाद। Say, I am Bhaju Ram. I came from Nepal, and may God bless you, all of you.